This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Daniel Mann, the COO of Bound for Blue, to discuss the topic of wind-assisted propulsion in the commercial maritime sector. So, Daniel, to start us off, I'm sure many watching know the Bound for Blue name, but can you give us a by the numbers look at the organization today, just something that gives a size and a scope to Bound for Blue?
Bound for Blue established in 2015. We had a suction sail wind propulsion, and in terms of numbers, we're actually just exceeded 100 employees, grown significantly last few years with the growth of the company. Most of those employees based in Spain, Barcelona, and a few outside, and also developing an office in Shanghai to support our China markets. We have today 11 systems operating on 11 vessels, uh, configuration of sails on those vessels. And we have nine more vessel systems to be installed, mostly, I think, this year. And of those projects, we have three new build vessels, and the rest are retrofits. Um, and in terms of the total order book installed and on ongoing, it's 58 sales. So yeah, pretty good numbers.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And again, I appreciate it. So, before we dive into the specific wind-assisted propulsion technology that Bound for Blue offers, can we discuss the market in general? Looking at the world today, regardless of the wind-assisted solution, can you provide insights on the number of systems installed or contracted for installation globally? And again, I know you just discussed the Bound for Blue base, but basically, I'm trying to get an idea of the total market that you see ahead of you.
Yeah, sure. So actually, just recently, the International Windship Association did a press release announcing there's over 100 WAPS vessel systems operating today. So that's all of those orders that have been placed the last few years. We've got over 100 systems operating. So that's quite a number from where we were a few years ago. And also, there's more than 150 vessel systems on order in the order book. So that would take us to 250. And looking at the trajectory the last few years and the growth is predicted, we're going to see significant growth in the future on that number. So, and if we look at Bound for Blue, we've sold 54 units, as I mentioned. Half of those units come from the gas and tanker vessel segments. And it's a bit segment by segment, but gas and tanker is representing quite a share of the total orders, with probably bulk coming second, maybe general cargo third. When we look, and I guess a little bit, each maker has maybe a different solution that fits different segments and all segments, but they may have a bit of a competitive advantage in some segments. We have a unique non-explosive proof design, which helps us be very competitive in the gas and tanker segment. So half of our orders are coming from that segment, and that's a part of the reason why we have. Saying that, we have installations on ro-ro, general cargo, bulk vessels as well, and we see strong potential as the big number of orders grows and the penetration across all segment grows. We want to be in all vessel segments as all of the vessel types look to reduce fuel consumption, reduce operating costs, and the cost of regulatory compliance by reducing emissions. But there's a bit of dynamic in each segment, which drives a little bit of different trajectory in each segment. But over time, they'll all be, supporting WAPS by the need to comply with regulations and reduce operating costs. Although the proposed IMO net zero framework was delayed last year, and there'll be proper meetings on that as we get into November this year, possible revisions towards that. The Fuel EU framework and EU emissions, which is a large market, um, both of which will increase the costs for owners and operators operating in Europe, especially accelerating as we get to 2030 when the next uh, measure reduction comes in from 2030. In addition to the Fuel EU concept, there's the UK scheme that started this year for the emissions trading scheme. and the Turkish schemes. And there is a different scheme being piloted and looked at in China, which is, of course, a huge market for shipping. So owners continue to consider low emission fuels and the green fuels. And although those lower emission green fuels, they'll come at a higher cost. Therefore, whether it's reducing the fuel you use or using, green fuels, both both options will help the operating landscape and the regulatory compliance. I think that's quite key, and where WAPS will support.
So well, let's take a deep dive into what you know best, and that, of course, is the Bound for Blue solution. Can you provide just an overview, a spec on the range of rigid sail solutions that are available today for commercial ships, with insights on the technology differentiators that really set it apart from what is, kind of becoming a crowded field?
So our Bound for Blue solution is based on a suction cell concept where we apply suction to generate high lift. So we're getting 6 to 7 times more lift compared to some alternative rigid sail designs. So with the high lift coefficient per square meter, it means we can install smaller sails compared to alternative rigid sails with reduced weight and cost, thereby offering a very strong solution. So as previously mentioned, our patented non-explosive proof e-sail design means that we can offer a unique proposition for gas and tanker vessels at competitive cost. And generally, the Bound for Blue technology can perform over a broad range of wind conditions, and we adjust the e-sail power consumption depending upon the wind speed. So we're trimming per second the power we need, not overutilizing power from the vessel for our technology that is needed. So we can optimize for those wind conditions because wind conditions change, different routes have different conditions. It's important the technology is flexible towards those conditions. So, all in all, a compact design, a high performing design. We've got different sizes that can be applied to different sizes of vessel with different deck space, different air draft considerations. So I would say, a very flexible solution that is needed in the range of shipping vessels and the range of operating conditions that it's experienced by vessels.
When you look at your market holistically, I guess what's the sweet spot for Bound for Blue today?
Yeah, so today, as I said, I mean, our sales can be applied to most vessel segments. It's a question of what the size is, what is the objective of the owner, and what is in the business case, what are we trying to achieve? Um, and our sales are installed on the wide segments from smaller vessels up to even the pipeline we have is including VLCCs, VLOCs, the larger vessels, and the quantity and size of the sail that we apply will vary for different types and sizes of vessel with consideration to like I said, the deck space and other factors. We do a detailed study that can be made to assess the best solution. But as you say, and I mentioned earlier, we have a very strong solution for the gas and tanker segments with unique advantages of non-ATEX design, some unique patented access into the cell for maintenance for a gas and tanker segment. So I would say the flexible technology we have for vessels on fixed routes or in spot trade, and when they're in spot, they go different trades, different wind conditions. So they need a flexible device that could be trimmed to the conditions that we have. And a lot of tankers are in the spot trade as well as fixed route. That's probably where I would say the sweet spot is and where our primary focus is. But I think the other segments are coming fast and can also benefit from the solution we have.
One thing I know that this audience loves is a case study. Everybody loves, it's nice to read about the new technology. It's really nice to read about the new technology as it's being applied in the field. So with that, can you discuss in detail one either working or recently contracted solution that highlights not just the Bound for Blue solution, but specifically the advantages or the benefits that an owner is or is expected to receive?
Yeah, so we installed three of our e-cells, Model 2, 22-meter height, fixed type. So we kept the sail in the air draft of the vessel, existing air draft, so didn't exceed that, which means the operator, after doing the relevant compatibility checks, were confident the vessel could trade as it previously has done, and it's foreseen to in the future. We did some different option studies around where should we install the sails, how many sails. They had quite strict rules on the visibility, not to exceed existing visibility, uh, you know, rules in place. So went for three sails in a specific configuration. So didn't need a camera system or anything like that to comply with SOLAS. And a small adjustment around some valves to make sure the cells could be installed to be non-ATEX, so we could be very competitive on cost. So that study was done. So the relationship starts when you're doing that study, you're coming up with different options for the customer. Not an option that's not just best, us as a supplier, but it's got to be right for the customer, and that might mean less sales. It might mean less, size of sail, but what is right for that vessel and the operations. So we put that into play on the vessel during a dry dock in Turkey that they were installed in March 2025. And then after that, when the vessel was sailing, actually Eastern Pacific Shipping, the owner, did a study with Global Center Marine Decarbonization of Singapore, where they did a period of on-off testing to demonstrate the savings that were being achieved from the sails on the vessel in real time. So did the on-off testing when the vessel was on some train to a charter in South America. South America isn't the most optimum wind weather conditions for WAPS, but still can deliver strong savings. And they did a report, which has been made public, available, that saw an average net power reduction of 8% on the engine, with maximum power savings in beam wings of 20%, although they wouldn't be seeing those beam wings a lot of the time. But those savings were in line with what we were estimating at the outset of the project, and impressive considering the wind conditions and an upside when they go into alternative trade over that year. So based on those results, EPS, Eastern Pacific, ordered a second installation on a new build tanker that's been delivered this year from New Times Shipyard in China. So we're pretty pleased with that, and I'm sure the customer is as well.
You know, this is new technology. It's emerging technology. I'm sure it's constantly under study. But what's new from Mountain for Blue for 2026? What can this audience expect to see?
It's exciting times. We've grown the team, and we've got a lot of really good talent working on innovation. How can we improve our product even more? Different markets that may need a little bit of a different solution. We've agreed on something there that should be coming out in the next few months for the small segment of the market. But we also have the China production. We're pleased with that. That a lot of work was done by the operations team last year to get that up and running. So we're producing in China. The first two sales out of China came in March this year for the Cloud Nest project. And we're building a team in China that can support the local market there. So really happy with the team of experience we have in China now, and the delivery we made on really good time, really good quality out of China. And as well, we're seeing a lot of new build opportunities coming out of China, so we need to be there. In addition, we recently installed a sail in the port of Barcelona for even more testing activity to complement our wind tunnel testing that we do, and the CFD analysis we do, all of the broad range of solutions on the product development side and design side. And we have a strong growing team of aerodynamics engineers, performance team members, because this technology is complex. So you need the disciplines to work together to really move it forward like we're doing. So yeah, you can't stand still. You gotta keep optimizing, keep ahead of competition, and make sure we got the best product out there.